If you are thinking about moving from outdated on-premise infrastructure to the cloud, you should know that the first choice of many organizations is AWS migration. What you get from Amazon Cloud is cost reduction, increased agility, and flexibility. This will help you better manage the growing customer expectations. Secondly, it is more important to find reliable partners to help you migrate your infrastructure to the cloud, but also to guide you through your options once you are there. After successful migration to AWS, Vicert's team optimized the client solution and prepared it for scaling up.
Hi, my name is Stefan, and I'm a part of the Vicert team. I'm based in Belgrade, and I'm a software engineer. Being a part of the Vicert delivery team is beneficial to me for various reasons. The opportunity to collaborate on a meaningful project from the healthcare industry and a new technology, and with working with great people as well. So in the first place, take a look on infrastructure wise, we move away actually for that specific line from the existing on-premise infrastructure to a new cloud one infrastructure that has brought us a possibility to easier deployment process in the first place. So the new infrastructure introduced allow us utilization, actually the CI/CD concept. That new approach actually gave us opportunity to make a so-called infrastructure as code. So basically the pipeline that was responsible for the whole deployment process, everything got automated. Nothing is being done manually anymore regarding that deployment process. So the main challenge from the development point of view was to practically update the existing project as well as the creating new ones to be a part of the new CI/CD concept. To be more precise, it was not possible to automate a whole new development and deployment process for the current project solution. Since we have those apps that are mostly .NET Core applications, we could utilize so-called Entity Framework or Entity Framework Core as an ORM in order to achieve a much easier way of data access. So in other words, we managed to avoid writing the one raw SQL queries on the first place, but most importantly, Entity Framework gave us an opportunity to make so-called database migrations, so we could embed them into a pipeline and make sure in that way that we'll have a database schema up to date at any time for all environments. Instead of existing approach, we had to manually run SQL scripts for those purpose, which was not that good thing. And we wanted to avoid that because it's like too much work, it's cost effective and error prone. Also regarding the projects, we have introduced a project structure that replaced actually existing one. That new structure where we have a separated projects within the same solution allow us a much easier development process, maintainability, and testing as well. So solution is kind of separated into smaller projects. The API, if we talk about the API, web API, for instance, it has the API project, the core project, the logic. I mean, the old infrastructure, basically, project structure was basically replaced with the new one. Also, we implemented a so-called unit of work concept that is related to a successful implementation of repository design pattern. So it brought us a much easier development, since the unit of work pattern itself tracks the business transaction and translate them practically into database transactions, whether in the steps of collectively run the single unit. A client system is the system that provides eye scanning in order to detect diabetic retinopathy with a patient with diabetes. So in general, device scan to both eyes. It produces the set of 4 images that sends to an API part that's being processed. And in order to get the professional medical expertise and practically replace the actual human necessary to make an expertise. As a result, we can detect if the patient has the diabetic retinopathy or not, and if the result is positive, it can detect how severe the actual condition, if it's a mild or a very severe. So during that scanning process, it might happen that the exam actually fails. So in other words, AI cannot process the image successfully due to various reasons. So maybe the image quality is not sufficient. The patient is not get close to the device. The lens is not clean. The patient accidentally blinked during that process. So therefore, the exams need to be reviewed practically from the client's employees in order to detect what was the reason of the actual failure of the image. So they can actually provide an information to the actual technician who conducts the exams in order to make it possible to conduct successful exams. Therefore, the client has the so-called application exam review, which the regional version, the first version was to based on an export, the CSV file export from the other part of the system. So the exam review system uses it, and it's being triggered by the actual S3 event, and is being processed by the so-called overread lambda. And after that processing, as a result, the output was the client's employees got informed about the newly counted unsuccessful images, so they can be reviewed. That original solution was not that quick, was not that optimized in order to, in a way that employees had to go manually by receiving that email and follow that link. They had to go to the AWS directly and manipulate and work with the AWS console. So they had to practically dig into the S3 bucket and downloading that images and reviewing that manually. So as an addition to that, not that optimized system, we introduce the client application, actually the front end application supported with the backend services as well. And so as a product, we made an addition with a web API and a database storage. So when the user or the client's employees doesn't have to dig into the S3 anymore, it receives an email, and by following that email, he's being authenticated, and authorization is being done by a so-called cognito service, and that communicates to an Active Directory, which is validates actually the user and retrieves the token. And by using that token, he can access to that data that we packed into our database. So anyway, user is capable to log in directly by using that email and receives a screen that is presenting practically a list, a grid with the images, and he can successfully and easily detect which one's submission of that set of 4 images was not successful, which was successful, and easily tracked what was the actually problematic about that failure on that exam. So the core part of the system is practically the system called integration engine. Integration engine is practically a web API that communicates with pretty much with the most part of the systems, and it's included to all pretty much all processing. One of the main challenges working with that integration engine part of the client system is working with so-called DICOM images. DICOM itself is an international standard practically for storing, retrieving, printing, and presenting a medical image information. So in our particular case, we need to deal with DICOM tags that are time-based, actually. So when in our case, eye examination is being conducted, and that image, DICOM image, actually, as a DICOM file, it contains the set of DICOM tags, which can say, okay, the patient name, patient first name, last name, image capture, date, time, and etc. So all those DICOM tags that are time-based, actually, we need to present them to a client's customers in their local time. So we need to embed, actually, to implement a time zone offset for each customer. So in order to deal with that, we need to use this .NET package called FO DICOM, which is pretty interesting. And we need to actually expand and update the current system in order to support that update for per specific customer. So anyway, we need to store the offset for all specific customers and embed it into DICOM tags, so we can present it, as I said, to a specific customer. So it was pretty much interesting to work with that package. It allows to easily and very quickly to manipulate and extract and packing the DICOM tags. This new approach gave us opportunity to move it to other applications and other projects, such as the CEM or clients continuous efficacy monitoring. That system allows to expertise from the medical doctor that does the examinations of an eye and actually gets the set of those images that artificial intelligence does it, and we can compare the actual human results or the human expertise compared to the expertise that we received from artificial intelligence, and we can detect in that way if the system is valid, is accurate, if it's needed to make a new updates or bug fixes in any way, and as well as so we can basically implement the existing infrastructure and move it, practically translate into from the exam review to the CEM very quickly and very successfully, which is actually the main benefit of introducing the new infrastructure. So that was pretty much it. Thank you for watching and take care.